Heya, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about a thought that I've had for quite a while that I've never fleshed it out well enough that I feel like I could talk about it and say what I'm trying to say. And I don't really know that I have done that now either, but I'm going to try anyway because I was just reminded of it again recently. But it's basically just this concept, just the wonder of how God is so good that whatever we should be doing, like whatever he calls us to, is ultimately what's best for us. And I was reminded of that because someone just mentioned recently, and I really want to be careful because they have a point. I feel like I could caveat this so much, but I just want to present this other side that I feel like maybe is underpresented. But anyway, they're saying why do we spend time with God? It's because it makes us happy and makes us feel good, makes us better people. No, that's not why we spend time with God. We spend time with God because we love him, which is true. It is so true. You can be doing the right thing for all of the wrong motivations. And it is very easy to slip into this selfish, perhaps, mindset of just following God for what you think you can get out of it. But I do think it's very interesting that is a natural cause of spending time with God. Is it gives us more joy. It makes us more patient. You see the fruits of the Spirit in us. The kinds of things that he develops in us is the kind of things that we should want in our lives. And I think what makes that so fascinating is because that is so true. Whether you are a Christian or not, all of the things that the world is looking for, they're all things that God has promised us and that are ours when we are in fellowship with him. And so as human beings, we all innately want these things. The only problem is a lot of people are looking in the wrong place and are unwilling to turn to God for it and go through the hard things to receive these good and lasting things. And they think they can get some counterfeit version somewhere else. But the fact that we all want those things, that we all want to be happy, that we all want to be content, we all want to be satisfied and enjoy our lives, enjoy our work, enjoy our rest, and have intimacy and fellowship and good friends, good relationships, that's not a bad thing. And to recognize that we gain those things ultimately and truly from a relationship with God is not a bad thing. And to seek a relationship with God partly because of that is not a bad thing. Yes, we do it because he's God and because he asks us to, and we should do whatever he tells us to just because he's God and he made us and he has that authority over us. But in his graciousness, he made us to want the things that will naturally come. And so to acknowledge those desires and to have those motivate us, I don't think is wrong. And it does have to be balanced with this understanding of, I was talking about last week, God is God and I am not. And so that we would follow him no matter what. But at the same time, it can be a weird kind of false humility or unnecessary denial to say, oh no, that's not why I do any of it. And to kind of be oh, that's just, a little happy little accident that spending time with God makes me feel that way. But of course that's not why I do it. Yes, that is kind of why I do it. The more I do it, the more it is truly motivated by love for God, but also the more that I experience those good effects. And doing the right thing becomes pleasurable and enjoyable, becomes the thing that I want to do. And I don't have to pretend that I'm happy to just go along with a miserable life, lay down my life and take up my cross because I want to. Really what I want is to be rewarded for that, to experience the joy that comes in God in contrast to the things that I give up. And the things that he asks us to do always ultimately create those things that we're longing for, which I think is so sweet and so cool. The desires that we have are not necessarily wrong. We just need to know that they're fulfilled in him, and we need to be committed to following him until we see those results. But I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing a good job explaining this, but just the good things about following God, I don't have to pretend those don't matter. And it also kind of ties into a book by John Eldridge, let's go, that I was reading around Christmas time, and it's about heaven, and he's just making a case for what he thinks heaven will actually be like, biblically speaking. And one of the things that he was talking about is we're working towards a reward in heaven, and we don't have to just pretend that's not a motivation, or that everything we do is, all completely altruistic. It's okay to be motivated by the thought of that reward, to do the hard thing and follow God because we know that it's going to be worth it in the end, because he's promised to reward us. And Jesus himself in different passages gives that as a motivation. Like, do the right thing. Store up your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. And he talks about like the reward that we're gonna get, and says, do your job faithfully, because you will be rewarded in heaven, and because you will receive these good things for it. And so it's kind of that same concept of it feels kind of wrong and kind of selfish to look at it that way. It feels like the right and the Christian thing to do is just to go through all of these hard, miserable things just because that's what Christians do, and to be so self-sacrificing. I was gonna say martyristic, and that's definitely not a word, when really, like, it's okay to admit that why we're doing it is because we're looking towards something in the future. Like, our love and our desire is set on something in the future, when God will fulfill all the desires of our hearts. Like, that's what we're working towards. We're expecting that reward. And I found that so refreshing to hear him say that we don't have to have this kind of like false humility about it, because I have found that very motivating myself sometimes. Like, God telling me to forgive something or give something up or let something go, and I'm like, okay, God, but I better get rewarded for this in heaven. Like, I'm only doing this because I know that it's going to be better in the end, that what I really truly want is to follow you and trust in the reward that you have for me and trust in the good things that you're going to do for me. And it's very comforting to think about the treasure that I'm laying up in heaven, and to think about the reward that I'm going to have for the ways that I have tried to sacrifice and die to myself and follow God. And sometimes that is the main reason that I do it, is because I trust that he has something better for me. I'm holding on to his promises, and when if it was just up to me, it wouldn't really make sense, and I'll be like, nope, don't want to do that. So I don't know, I feel like it is like an important part of Christianity, is that we do want these things that God offers. And I feel like that's a very good point to make to non-Christians, to explain like why we do this. We're not just stupid living a miserable life for the sake of living a miserable life. It's like, no, because like we know that this is where it's at. This is where our desires are truly satisfied. This is where our joy is truly made full. It just makes sense. Like, spiritually it makes sense, but also like kind of to our human logic, it makes sense to do this, because this is what will truly ultimately make us happy, and that's what we want. And it is very important not to treat God like the magic genie or the answer to all of our problems, who only just wants us to be happy here and now and do whatever it is to make us comfortable. But ultimately we trust that he does have our best interests at heart. Like, he made us for joy. He made us for intimacy with him. And we follow him when we don't see it, because we trust that that's what's coming for us, and that this is the path towards it, because that's what God said, and we trust him. And also we get to experience some of the evidence of that now. We get to taste and see that the Lord is good. I don't know if that's something other people think about or like feel kind of guilty thinking about. Like, I kind of felt weird doing things for the sake of my reward in heaven, but that's something God tells us to do. And that is the motivation that he gives to us multiple times. That's why Jesus says to do the things that we do. It's for the sake of our reward in heaven, because our Father sees what is done in secret and he'll reward us. It also makes me think of the verse that says, like, without faith it is impossible to please God. He who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he rewards those who please him. That's supposed to be like a core tenet of our faith, is believing and hoping and expecting in this reward that he has for us. And so, I don't know, there's just some random thoughts that have been going through my head recently, but I wanted to share that in case that's not something that we really think about, and to encourage you that it is okay to be motivated by that reward, to try to lay up your treasure in heaven and think about that and expect that, and hope for the ways that God is going to make it all worth it in the end, and to be grateful for the ways that even here and now we get to experience a little bit of that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen.